2025 Select Board meeting. Call this meeting to order. First up is Tom Walker, Highway Superintendent.
I wanted to come in and propose, I spoke with Andrea a week or so ago about promoting from within for the foreman's position that I've had open for quite a while now.
Like a year, right?
Huh?
Like a year
Oh,
or more?
probably-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably 3 or 4 years,
Mhm.
So we went over, she had me go over the job description and stuff. I don't know if she had any comments on it or not. There was one thing under the supervisor's responsibility. It says the employee is not responsible for taking any disciplinary action, nor is the employee involved in the hiring process. I really think that I don't think this needs to come out. I just don't want it to say not involved, because if there's a disciplinary action that happens, say I'm on vacation and it happens with an employee, he needs to be involved.
That makes
With
sense.
that situation.
Yep.
And the hiring process, it's one of those that more heads in the room
Mhm.
that, see different things. So I would really like the foreman to be more involved on that
Right.
situation as well. And then on the next line down, it said the employee is responsible for supervision of 6 full-time, which would be the highway, but then it says 5 part-time. That can be taken out, because that was back when we used to supervise the dump.
Mhm.
So we don't supervise the dump anymore.
Yeah.
So that, those were 2 little things I saw.
Make sure you give them to Sandra,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Other than that,
Yeah.
I'd like to promote Cody Gibbons. It's been with us, he'll be with us in middle of June for 2 years.
Okay.
And he's really
Mhm.
showed a lot of improvement, and he has all the licenses. He came to us with all the licenses.
Or almost all of them, and you got them right away.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And, so if I'm not there, some of the other guys, they can't move equipment, things like that, because they don't have the right class license. He has all that. And he's a very good mechanic, welder. He's been phenomenal welding this winter. He steps up to the plate, fabricates, and saves the town a ton of money.
All right.
So
Any,
that's my
any,
proposal.
go ahead.
One question. It has to do with, not with Cody, but under the job description, is there anything that you want to add to the special requirements, like certain licenses are preferred? Because I know you were talking about Cody has so many of them, and they, for lack of a better term, overlap. Like, it's helpful that he has, was it Class A that you said? So do you want to add any of that in here, like
That
it's
could kind of
preferred?
yeah, that could be added, yeah.
Because I think that's a real distinctive, knowing how, how competitive our employment process
Yeah.
has been in the past. Somebody who has like a full range like that, to me, automatically puts them in a different category. And I think we might want to reflect that from a preferred standpoint or something to
Yeah.
that effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing, quickly, on the job description I make a motion that we edit the job description for
I did.
Highway foreman?
highway foreman with a comment with the edits. Yeah,
As amended?
as amended.
Excuse me.
One thing on that. Is that regarding the part-time employees?
No, this is the highway foreman.
No, I know, but are you editing out the number of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sandra has all that, the
Okay.
edits. Well, I just said with the edits.
Okay,
the
with those
amended-
specific.
Yeah, I motion that we approve the amended job description for highway foreman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the other thing, then, I will motion to promote Cody Gibbons to highway foreman, effective when?
Next week. I mean, we're almost at the end of this week now, so start it
Okay.
with,
Starting the
March
next pay
10th?
period?
next pay period
Yeah,
will be
that'll be a clean.
Sundays, whatever Sunday's date is coming
Okay.
up.
Okay, March 9th,
Yeah,
effective March 9th.
Well, it ends on Sunday, so 10th,
No,
March 10th?
then Saturday
Yeah.
we start,
Okay.
Sunday's a new week. for
Okay,
us.
just checking.
Effective March 9th. Okay, Cody Gibbons to Highway Department Foreman, effective March 9th. Pay rate is $28.82 an hour, grade 9, step 1. You have a second?
Second.
One quick question.
Yep.
Nobody else in your department is interested in this job?
One other guy was, but he hasn't showed any interest for over a year.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
Yep.
Make sure.
Last year, he talked about it and read stuff over, and then he's never gotten back to me on anything or
Yeah,
any of the.
I know Cody's highly qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's shown a lot of interest too, right?
Yeah, oh, he's,
Yeah.
yeah, he came to me a couple times about this and, you know, and asked what was going on with it.
Okay,
There's something to be said for somebody who's seeking to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think the fact that he's got all of those certifications, you know, to my point about maybe adding some of that to the description, I think that says what you're trying
And
to
he
do.
wants to take some
Yeah.
classes after we talked about it. He definitely wants me to sign him up for a few
Mhm.
classes on management, things like
Yeah,
that. which
that's great.
Maya runs all the time. so.
all right.
And I think that also, you know, to your point, B,
Yeah,
in order, if he's going to be away, I know that Tom doesn't get to go on vacation much because he's the one that does everything. If he's going to be away, they need somebody who has those qualifications to be able to do the.
right, because otherwise they can't operate the equipment.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are two like absolutes. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
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 Okay.
All right, thank you.
Shortest
Um,
update ever.
One quick one. Any news on Highland Ave? Are we waiting on something
We're
still?
waiting for the stuff to go to the Army Corps of Engineers, last I heard.
Okay, everybody else has signed off on it?
I did email Bill and Sarah on the conservation because the other day we got an email from Alex, but I don't know where.
No,
she-
Alex got, when it was submitted, there were 3 electronic signatures, and he told me verbally that that was sufficient. There are now 3 wet signatures down there.
Oh, good.
So
Okay, as long as
everything,
we're all set on that.
you know,
As far as I know, we are. I mean,
Okay.
that was the last email I got, and then it will continue to go through the Army Corps of Engineers to move forward.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
All right,
Good.
thank
Go
you.
home.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Approval, review and approval of warrants.
okay, I'll make a motion to approve the payroll warrant of 3/5/25, the amount of 90,000, excuse me, 93,167 and 19 cents.
93,000.
That's what I just
Yeah,
said.
she said that.
I thought you said 92. Sorry.
93. I'll second that.
Beat you to it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
Why don't you make this motion, then you'll.
No? Go ahead and do the next one.
Okay,
Liz.
make a motion for the vendor warrant for 3/5/25 of 167,311 and 22 cents, which includes snow removal, PD cruiser radio FY25 town meeting.
I'll second.
Second.
Be seconded?
Second. We all second it.
It's a unanimous
And
second.
all God's children said.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay. Review and approval of minutes.
All right, these are the ones that we put off.
Yeah.
And the reason that I wanted to edit them is I felt like they, you know, ended up saying different from what actually happened in the meeting. And I think that I sent a second change, which is, it said Sarah in there, but usually we refer to the members by their last name. So I request that be changed. And then there was one, the only person who responded to the call for applicants, that wasn't what was said. It's
Yep.
there 25 people responded to the
Yeah.
applicants. It was just an interview request.
Yeah.
And the lack of participation by the town hiring manager, and we had a long conversation about that.
Yeah, she's not, there wasn't the I mean, it was straightened out that she is not the hiring manager.
No, I
She's
mean,
not.
she said 3 different things.
Oh, okay.
And I have them on the
How-
time, I have the time stamp in the meeting.
I watched the thing
Can I-
2 more times, and
Yeah.
she didn't.
I went through them. I have some suggestions
Okay.
that will maybe help this.
Great.
So starting with the first one, I'm just looking at your edits from this.
Yeah.
Okay. That was in the packet. So, and I looked at that, and then I looked at the ones, the original ones, the draft ones that were sent out. So, one change was that has been fulfilling the role voluntarily for over a year, strike and a half.
Yes.
So that's good, in my mind. Then you have responded to interview requests, because there was probably several requests that went out to people, not just her.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that
yeah.
should be requests.
right, so the way I phrased it was, the only person who responded to interview requests, plural, and strike responded to the call for applicants, so that's good.
Yeah.
And then what I would do on,
Because just like you guys,
yeah.
I went back and
no,
saw
I'm
that
just
meeting.
literally going through the edits. I'm not even.
Let her
like-
get through it.
Yeah, because I think it's actually simpler than I initially thought. On the line where it says, however, Sarah noted challenges, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
I think I would strike that all together, because there was the bullet, the fourth bullet actually acknowledges those, and it's a much clearer statement of what the discussion was. So I think I would just take out the however Sarah noted challenges rather than continuing to add to
Because we
that.
don't need to be word for word.
Well, no, the other thing is, it's very generic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the
Okay, I'm okay
challenge,
with that.
the challenges are actually covered in 4, so
So
why?
cross out from however?
Yeah, cross out that last sentence. That kind of gets rid of that because it's already covered in another bullet. We don't need to do it twice and then add to it. And then,
This cross out that I put here, that was something, it was misstated from a different part of the, I had been ill and hadn't attended meetings. That was
Yeah.
what that was about, so.
yeah, so then on the next bullet, bullet number 2, what I would do is cross out what you had crossed out, Sarah. And I would just say Kearns, strike, mentioned that you struck through the end of that sentence, and then simply say Kearns emphasized that the position is essential for handling the workload of the Conservation Commission, et cetera.
I also, we can take the given out and maybe say, and Robin's expertise and ongoing commitment, because she's been there doing
Right.
that.
But,
Okay, so I'm okay with that edit that you made,
well, it's your edit, all I'm
the
doing.
striking of the, well, you changed the wording, and I'm okay with that.
No, I actually did.
Can I have it one more time?
Yes.
I've actually got it written down for you, Sandra, too. You're striking, I'm taking what you struck. I'm agreeing with what you struck. The mention that due to an emergency, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And all I'm saying is, the next sentence says she emphasized, so rather than saying she, just put Kearns emphasized and leave the rest, as you, I think, had done here.
It's close enough, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's.
Would you do me a favor? Would you read your
Yep.
submission for the second bullet point?
Yes.
Please.
So the second bullet point will say, Kearns emphasized that the position is essential for handling the workload of the Conservation Commission, given Robin's expertise and ongoing commitment to the tasks involved.
But it also includes the first sentence. Kearns stated that the Conservation Commission had reviewed applications, requested interviews, and interviewed Robin Conley.
Yep, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just changing the word Kearns. She
Yeah.
to Kearns.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. And then on with the third bullet, Lamas reiterated the steps, blah, blah, blah. And then I would agree with striking, this detailed procedure aligns, blah, blah, blah. I would just strike that.
Okay.
The only thing I would be clear on, because this, I think, was a essential to the discussion was that if I reread bullet number 3, it will say Lamas reiterated the steps typically involved in the hiring process, including the need for public posting and interviewing in an open session, comma, followed by a formal vote or committee vote, comma, and finally an official offer. What I would say is vote and offer from the select board,
I think that's
because
good. Yep.
that clarifies the role of the select board
Okay,
versus.
I had that added.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, so bullet number, so if we're good with that, and then you just strike the last sentence, this
Yeah.
detailed procedure,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Okay, bullet 4, nothing, because that actually illustrated the points that Sarah had made.
But the problem is with bullet 4, the conscom isn't an elected board.
Oh, clarified that typically.
And that's
She
the
mentioned
point.
elected or,
No,
she
that-
did, she
yeah.
said
So
elected,
it's
but
fine,
she
we
also
can-
said appointed.
How about we just, all right, we're just doing edits.
Yeah.
Andrea clarified that typically elected boards or boards like the Conservation Commission?
Can I want to speak without being talked over, just
I'm
to clarify what, no,
Oh, okay.
it's not. So there were 3 things said during the thing. First, that there was a confusion that it was an elected board. Then there was saying that it wasn't an elect, she contradicted herself 3 times. So I
Okay.
think that we, instead of, if we're not going to enumerate that, we should just be very careful of the wording, that's all. Because I wrote an enumeration.
So the edit that I'm suggesting,
Yes.
without getting into the dynamics, is Andrea clarified that typically elected boards or boards like the Conservation Commission manage their own processes, blah, blah, blah.
That was the bottom line, was what we got to. That was the,
I think that that typically elected boards manage their own processes unless specific, you need to take out like the Conservation Commission, because that was said, two different things were said. But I'm
They were-
A-okay with, Andrea clarified that typically elected boards manage their own processes unless aid is specific requested. The Conservation Commission isn't an elected board.
Correct.
And we
That's why I'm
did not have
editing.
the expectation that we were managing our own thing. That's the whole point.
That point wasn't completely shared in the discussion, so that's why I'm clarifying that, because committees can do that if they wish.
Andrea did say,
She said people
Andrea
told-
did
I'm
mention
just,
that
what's the edit?
when
What's the
she
edit?
doesn't step in unless she's asked to, because that's not her job. She is not the hiring.
Okay, we're
She didn't
just,
say that. She said
we're
she said,
just-
let me just finish. She said Conscom told her that she wasn't welcome, and
please,
that's not
please,
accurate.
Please.
In fact, we all were wondering what was
Please.
happening.
Okay,
Let me
let's
just finish
let
my
her
sentence.
finish up so that we can
Well,
get
I'm
this
trying to
done.
finish my sentence.
Because I'm not going to vote for this no matter what. So it's going to get trashed, because I'm getting tired of it.
Okay. So, I mean, truth is an important thing. This is a legal document that we're putting up. It
I
should be
know.
truthful.
And if I don't think it's right, I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay, well, that's,
So I think we're so close. We've been fine with all the other edits. I think in some cases less is more, and the point that was made, whether it's agreed about or not, the point that was made was that the Conscom is not an elected board. We can all
Right.
agree on that.
yeah.
So Andrea clarified that elected boards or committees, appointed committees, we can even take out Conscom, manage their own processes unless aid is specifically requested.
That was not our understanding, and that was the whole point of the discussion.
She did
That
mention
was-
that at the end.
She stated that, but it's not
Yeah.
what we were told.
But it's
And
not
so then we need to take clarified out. Stated.
stated as fine.
Okay.
All right, can we agree on the edit?
Can you read the final edit,
I
please?
will, thank you. Andrea stated that
From the
typi-
beginning?
From the whole beginning?
There was a discussion.
You weren't even there, David. Are you going to vote on this?
Okay,
No, I need it clear.
I think
That's all.
Oh, okay.
he's helping.
Okay.
Appreciate the help. I'm not changing anything prior to this sentence, but I will reread the entire
Can we
bullet.
change Sarah to Kearns, though, because that is something specific?
Yes, we can. Yep. Okay, so that's the other edit. Okay. There was a discussion among the select boards to ensure that Robin's hiring complies. we want to get our tenses correct, with these procedures, acknowledging a communication gap that might have occurred within this process. As Kearns mentioned, missing guidance in earlier stages. Andrea, or
Stated.
Lamas, stated that...
Oh, yeah, that should be Lamas, you're right.
Yeah. Lamas stated that, help me out here,
Typically, elected boards manage their own processes unless aid is specifically requested.
typically elected boards or committees, strike like the Conservation Committee, manage their own processes unless aid is specifically requested.
Although that's not what was said in the meeting, but I'm willing to
Yeah.
It was,
move forward.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's move forward.
All right.
Now, number 5, I didn't have anything.
No.
Is there any like Kearns?
No.
Nope,
No.
we use
No corrections
Kearns.
there.
No.
Okay, so 5 I thought was good.
Okay, so that's that section that we needed to debate. I think we're good on that.
Okay.
Up on the top, there were a couple things that just were left off that need to be
Before we,
added.
if,
Okay.
if I might, before we move on, so are we, based on those edits, we're good with bullets 1, the edits there,
Yep,
edits in bullet 2, edits in bullet 3, slight edits in bullet 4, and no edits in bullet 5.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay,
I'm okay with those.
gotcha, okay. And then I also noted, this is where, on page 2, Sarah, that you were talking about at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, just the summary of items. There were,
Downtown district support.
That's on February 18th one.
Nope,
during this meeting, these ones up on the top.
this was the DLTA priorities, I think. Is that what you're talking about?
That, it says DLT under,
Okay. So the
oh,
last,
such as, this was such as planning, etc. This is when we had that discussion about the fact that in the past, multiple boards has sent in their requests and they were all tallied.
so the way that I would summarize that is, because you keep using the word votes, and I don't, it wasn't resonating.
Requests, maybe?
Priorities, because these are all about whose priorities are what.
I'm okay with
So
that.
I'm comfortable adding just a summary bullet that's shorter than what you have, which is, there was discussion that many town boards usually contribute
Their
their
priorities.
comments on DLT spending, on DLTA priorities,
Okay, I'm good with that.
right?
Okay,
Yep.
it's okay.
I think that would just kind of, we had that discussion and.
And Andrea did mention, we got that stuff from FERCog late. We didn't have a lot of time.
Yes, so we
We got
could
it
say
after a
something like
meeting.
Lama
Okay, so-
stated.
Yeah,
We're gonna cross out then "and" until the end of that sentence, and then the last sentence is just me asking whether she had heard from, and she saying no. Did you want to add something, Bernie, about the
No.
fact that it was late from FERCog?
no, that's not, she did mention it, but you don't have to have everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm leaving, all I'm saying is that just summarize that there was discussion of other town boards who usually contribute
Priorities,
their priorities for
Yeah.
DLTA
spending,
requests.
requests.
Right, because we're not talking about, we weren't
You're
talking
right,
about,
yep.
Okay, and leave it at that.
And then, but the one way up on the top, that one sentence up on the top,
On the top of what?
the 3 things we agreed to. We agreed to the fire procedures.
Oh, you're at the top of this list or at the top of the minutes?
The top of the very first sentence. We skipped to the
The
second
first one.
sentence.
Yes.
Here, on here.
Oh, I have a suggestion for you on that.
That one right there.
I noted that and I didn't say that out loud. I just thought that in my head because I had, and I just, before we move on, I just want to clarify that this is a separate bullet that's added, the one that we just talked about, right? Because it's not
Oh,
covered.
right. Add this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
So, yeah. Yep.
Okay, and I will certainly be happy to try and reread that out loud. If you look at the last budget, not budget, bullet, on page 2 of the actual minutes, the draft, not on yours. The board collectively agreed on 3 priorities to submit, right? And then and one of those was downtown district support, which what you're pointing out is that you didn't agree to that.
No, the fire procedures wasn't mentioned. Is the fire procedures there?
Yeah.
I thought the 3 things we agreed to were fire procedures, FEMA maps, and the community downtown position. I'm fine.
I see
You
what
see
you
what-
mean. Okay. It wasn't clear. I'm sorry, it wasn't clear from your
No,
notes.
that's
Okay.
Those were the 3 things that we voted and agreed on, and that I didn't think it was reflected in the minutes. And that's why I was saying.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Because the fire thing, I think it's talked about, yes. It's talked about in the prior bullet, but you're right in that we did decide that it was a priority, correct? Okay. So, and we talked about the importance of FERC licensing, but we actually didn't list that as a priority because we're already engaged in that, so we don't effectively need to list it as a priority.
It was the fire procedures, the FEMA maps,
Yeah.
and the community
Yep.
downtown position.
So I would cross out Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Project FERC relicensing, and I would put the
Fire procedures,
policies and
policies and
procedures.
procedures.
Okay. And did you want to know parenthetically that
No, I don't have a problem. I mean, the vote is the vote.
collectively?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I just wanted to, I felt the fire policy and procedures, we had talked about it quite a bit, and it's pretty important.
Yes, and actually, we did agree as that was one of the 3
Yes.
priorities, so yeah, that's a good catch.
Okay.
Okay,
That it?
Sandra?
No, I got one more, Sandra. At the bottom, executive session, we adjourned to executive session at 8:07, not 6:07.
Yes, I did catch that.
And then
That's the
adjourned at
test.
8:23. Yeah.
that's the test.
Right, she puts it in to see if we're paying
If
attention.
you want to make a
Did you
motion
read
there,
it?
Dee, then,
So
Go
I
deeper.
would move that we approve the January 21st, 2025 minutes as amended.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, B, thank
Abstain.
you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate
I
your
just
careful
needed-
attention to,
well, I needed
and
to s-
calm presence. Good job.
I need to, I just tell you, I print everything out, I lay it all out on the kitchen counter, and then I line them all up. And when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought. It's just that I didn't have that opportunity to do it at the last
it.
meeting. Okay,
Then the next minutes are on the bottom, my suggested edits are on the bottom of the page. And my suggested edits are just about, bottom of this page that looks like this. The bottom is suggested
Okay.
edits for 18th. I suggest that we add a little small paragraph about how Loaves and Fishes is organized and the fact that they wanted another member on the trust fund, and she did mention that in the meeting.
yeah, if she mentioned it, I would add it.
Yep.
She did.
Okay,
Okay.
And then after
doing great
verifying
work.
residency, I suggest adding or membership in one of the sponsoring churches, because those are the 2 qualifications, and she did also mention
she
that.
said that out loud.
Yeah.
She
Okay.
did.
I'm good with that, even though I wasn't there.
Then walking tour, I just added the number that we had talked to, that was, one had missed a number. And then the closest thing that we have to a town common, he didn't say the town common. He said, you guys don't have a town common. This is the closest thing you have to the town common, is this green area in between the road and the sidewalk. And so I'm just adding that, requesting that we add that wording. And then the pocket park locations, I specifically asked the question, are you really talking about having a park on the grass between the main street and the sidewalk? And he was. And then at the end, I asked about the land purchase, whether the payment in lieu of taxes pilot from the state for that land that we had sold was the same, was equivalent to what we would get in taxes. And Andrea said it's not anywhere near the taxed amount. I actually didn't know how to,
she
whether
did
we
say that.
The
wanted to.
appraised amount?
Yeah, it's not what we'd get if we taxed it ourselves.
Yeah.
The state pays less,
A lot less,
a
yeah.
lot less, yeah. but we get something for it.
But I think it's relevant, and I mean, I asked the question because I think it's important information.
Yeah.
Did you guys use specifically the term pilot?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure did.
okay.
Okay.
And maybe after, Sandra, maybe after payment in lieu of taxes, would you mind putting in parentheses, pilot, because people reference it and sometimes don't know what it means.
Yeah.
So, anybody else have any edits?
No, I'm good with those.
I do not.
Nope, I did read them.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve the 18 February 2025 minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
I'll say aye. Let's get it passed. Okay. We're on to the Community Planning Coordinator job description. I did not get any edits to that description.
No, I've sent
No, listen, we can't discuss this. This isn't to do with the job description.
it is.
No, it isn't. This is
This is-
your thoughts on the position. First of all, this is a violation of open meeting law. You shouldn't have sent that email. All emails, I said, needed to be to Sandra before the packets went out so that we could get them to the packets. You can't directly email us, because these are your thoughts on stuff. That's technically a violation of open meeting law. So please do not send me any emails like that. You send everything through Sandra. And that has nothing to do with the job description. You're talking about stripping the job down. Totally. I gave you 2 weeks to make edits to the job description as passed out, and I didn't get anything from you.
Did we vote on whether this job is needed? We never talked about whether the job was needed.
We were discussing the need for it. And,
No, we
well, we're
didn't.
going to vote on it now.
The job description was brought to us, but we never said, so that may be a perfectly fine job description, but we
We-
never said, do we need that position?
We said we were going to morph the position so that it was not so much just the, grant developer. We thought we needed to morph that. We did say that in the meeting.
But it ended up as a catch-all that's covered actually by other jobs that are in
I
the.
don't think so.
Well, the board's clerk, we've got money for the board's clerk that's been already budgeted and set
Yeah.
aside.
Yeah.
And one of the main jobs of this was working with the planning board.
Yeah, not in a clerk position. I think in reading this is in the different, looking, because we'll need to classify it, it's not a clerk, which is 5, and it's not a 9. It's somewhere in between there. There are actually skills and requirements in terms of education that are different than a clerk. This is more than a clerk.
And these
If
job
that was
descriptions
the
are made to be
concern.
very generic, so that they're all encompassing, so you're not limiting yourself.
We're heading into a recession.
Well, we talked about that last week, and I said, I told you if you had edits to the job description,
okay.
you needed to send them to me so I could go out with the packet. So
I
we're
don't
not
have edits
wasting
of
our
the job
time at the
description. I'm
meeting
not
here.
wasting.
Well, you
I don't
are.
have edits of the job description.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
asking whether we ever voted on the fact that we needed a job, and we didn't. We don't need that job.
Well, that's not the, to be honest, that's not the vote. What is the concern? Is it the concern about funding? Because this is already covered under ARPA.
For 1 year. And then we're,
No, it could potentially be longer because the original estimate was based on the applicant having a full family benefit package.
but benefits are only like $5,000 a year, aren't they? That's what Andrea said in a meeting previously.
But when we did the grant funding, we've done this in other places. When you're estimating for a position, you typically estimate that the person's going to want a full benefit package for a family. That has not been the case so far, so we're not necessarily spending at a rate that's taking us, the estimate was 3 years, and now we've had gaps. We have a gap right now. It's kind of like what happened with the police at one point. where somebody left and wasn't replaced for a few months. So then you have that dollar amount that would have gone to that person's pay, and they're no longer here. So it potentially could go almost, I would estimate it could almost go a couple of years. Regardless, the budget for it beyond the ARPA funds would have to be voted on, and it would have to go before the finance committee and would have to come before the select board. So that's your backstop right there, if that's the
So we have to vote
concern.
on this position first to establish it and then
Then you
approve the-
classify it, and
Well,
then it'll continue to be paid
So
by
we'd be
the
voting
ARPA
today
funds.
on the job
job
description
description.
and establishing the need for a planning coordinator.
Are those two separate votes?
They're two separate things. This,
Well-
all we're voting on is the job description. And we're going to,
Then we'll classify it.
then we'll classify it.
And then will we decide afterwards if we need the job? That's my question, because we've never decided whether we need it.
She's saying we don't need the job and we shouldn't even be voting on this because we haven't.
would
We can vote on it if we want, but I'm just saying we don't
I
need the
would,
job.
let's put it this way, because I think it's a little bit of semantics. I
Okay.
personally would never vote on a job description that I didn't think that we needed,
Okay.
right?
Not saying here, I think.
So
we
it's
need
not
this,
two,
but-
that I would not parse out into two separate votes.
Well, I
I know you want to, but that's.
No,
part-
I don't want, this is what
Okay.
I'm trying to clarify, because
Okay.
this is the second job that's been brought, and it comes before, well, it happens more than that. It comes before us as a kind of fait accompli. And I think that there's a step before that, which is, do we need that job? And I don't think that we end up having that discussion ever. We just say, oh, okay, we're going to do it, and I'm guilty of that myself. Oh, I want to be on the hiring committee because I wanted to be able to have a say and be a part of it, and then I look back and I'm like, did we really need that job? And we never talked about that. And that's what I'm discussing. Because I feel
Yeah.
like what we need is we need to hire a firm with this money, with the ARPA money. We need to hire a firm to do the bylaw, the zoning stuff. That's what we did last time. And those people
What
are
do you mean last
expert in their
time?
job. In like 2018, when the last one time it was written, we hired a firm to do that. And those people would be kind of by
Those-
definition, let me
You're
just
talking
finish. They
the,
would be expert in their jobs.
Are you talking about, there's a few things that are, we hired a firm to actually codify and put all of the various and sundry laws, bylaws, and other general government stuff, to codify them into a document and renumber them. That was definitely a consultant. And then they had the software that produces all of that written text and then in turn gives you, these big old thick manuals, but also gives you the opportunity to, the software that displays it online so you can actually search. Anybody can go on. That was definitely a consultant. The bylaws, when changes come up, the planning board actually makes the decision on the wording and holds hearings. That's a different process. So you could have somebody come in and help you with that, which is what this position would do, but the ultimate decision-making occurs through the planning board itself and the planning board process, which involves public hearings.
Right. And
So this
and that was
person
one
would
of the,
help coordinate that and also coordinate, because I think you guys heard at the last meeting that there's 3 things coming down from the state. This person, I think, where they'd be truly valuable for the planning board and other committees is coordinating with FERCog and all of the other planning activities. Bernie sits in on that meeting, as does Michelle Wood sits in on the housing one that FERCog does. I think this person would help pull a lot of that together, especially for the planning board where they're all working full-time.
Right.
But they don't do anything on behalf of the planning board that takes away their decision-making in any way, shape, or form. They're actually organizing and helping get all of those resources, and if they needed a consultant, I think that person would help coordinate, as Leslie has with other projects, would do that for the planning board as well.
right, and that's my point, is that somebody
that's a
who
little
is
different.
somebody who is an expert, a firm who builds their whatever. Just let me finish.
Yeah,
I'll let you finish.
But that wasn't my point, right?
Okay.
And that's not what we were,
Somebody who is an expert, they have their professional, chops are sitting on whether they're up to date on the law, whether they know that. I'm not saying they would take the job away from planning board. I'm saying that we need somebody who that's their focus, not somebody who that's one of the 12 things that they're doing. And that's the only thing that was listed on job descriptions that I don't think is already covered somewhere else.
Okay. On the consultant, I think if we need a consultant for a particular task, we can do that. I think not in this particular instance, to be honest with you, because what's getting lost is there are two forms of planning that are covered by this job description. One is to certainly help the planning board, but it's also to help all the other boards and committees that are involved in general planning. So for example, we need to update the economic development portion of the master plan. That person could get that ball rolling for the planning board and other committees, as well as any of the other grants that are affecting economic development or affecting businesses or affecting other committees, right? Like with sewer. These are all infrastructure things that are needed in order for economic development. So that's what is covered under the essential functions. It's not just simply planning board. It's the planning coordinator, and maybe there's problems with the title of it.
and we expanded basically on the grant
Yeah.
developer, expanded to cover extra things so that it was all encompassing, so that,
So
you
you
know, you can always
retain what
add, you can always
what's-
add in a job description, you can always add and
Yeah.
duties as assigned.
So in other
I mean,
words,
that's,
I think it
that's what
is
I've always
needed.
seen.
It's actually filling a need that we've seen through the grant process, and it's actually helping with, I think, a gap that we have, which has to do with knitting together state directives, which have to be done ASAP on their timeline.
So we're going to hire somebody who knows that?
we're gonna look for
I mean,
somebody.
so to me, that's the point. That it's not, we'll hire somebody and pay them $75,000 a year and then hire more people. I think we hire the firm that we need. We hire a consultant to do the job that's needed, not hire somebody to do anything that anybody says. We're a small town.
I think you're misstating that there are specific functions that are listed here.
And I believe that all of them, except for that one, is covered by some other position.
I disagree with that. There's actually a gap in terms of there is no one fulfilling that extra planning support for the planning board.
Well, we've lost our boards clerk. We don't have a boards clerk, right?
This is not a clerk
This isn't about the
position.
board's clerk.
This is not about the board's clerk.
Yeah. I mean, we're not discussing this.
I just want to clarify, because this is not a,
Yeah. No,
this has specific functions in it. That's what you do with job descriptions. And then based on the priorities, which continue to include grants.
We already pay somebody for that. The town administrator is already paid for doing grants. It was one of
We
the main
have
reasons
so
she was
many-
hired.
we've expanded so many more
It
grants out
continues
there.
to-
She can't just do that, she's not getting other stuff done.
Okay.
I know, but we keep on getting these grants for grants' sake. Like some of these, the planning grants, I feel like they've been saying the same thing over and over again, and we're like, oh, okay, it's grant money, we don't have to worry about it. But really, I think that we should concentrate on things like the infrastructure. We've got sewer, we've got water, we've got stuff like
Which are
that coming
all
up.
grant,
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
correct.
But just not piddle around with things that we don't need. We didn't need like the guy last week was really nice and he did a beautiful presentation, but I don't think that we needed that. He said a lot of the same things that we already knew, as had already been said in the one before it. And I think that it is not efficient use of time to go after redundant and repetitive grants. That's all.
I hear you on that. I think it's our responsibility then, when the grant proposals come up, if we don't like them or we don't support them or we have serious questions about whether or not they're needed, then we need to weigh in on that particular request. to load up a job description with concerns about other grants that I will remind us, actually voted for.
And do all the grants come before, I mean,
Yeah, any contract comes before we have signed off on all of those grants.
Right.
Right? So if we're not happy with the grants in retrospect, then we need to take it upon ourselves to look more carefully, to your point, as they come before us, because it is absolutely our decision and responsibility on whether or not a grant moves forward.
Okay.
It's not this position, so let's
Okay.
not load, let's just make sure all of the points are valid and need to be heard, but let's make sure they're in the right swim lane for whatever we're doing, right? So if the concern is about the grant proposals that come, then they need to be directed at that point and not, sit back during okay, I'll sign that.
Okay.
Right? We need to take what you're saying and apply that to every meeting when something comes before us. But every single contract and agreement that needs to be signed in order for a consultant to do any work in Northfield comes before the
To be
select
clear.
board.
In a
When a
job,
grant comes
we're
before-
talking job description here.
Right.
It's not a task list.
right.
Right.
But to be clear, when a grant comes before us, it's already had hours and hours of work done to it. They've already looked into it and made sure and da. So it doesn't come to us first thing before time is
Well,
wasted
when
on
we're
it.
setting all these this is what's confusing, and it's always been confusing because there's a season and a cycle to the grants, is when we do DLTA, for example, those will result in grants and different discussions at a later point that we will need to sign. But because of the cycle of the grants, we won't necessarily make that decision on signing something for another 6 months if we're lucky. So I think where some of the, and certainly for anyone at home who's not in the weeds the way that we are, it's confusing, is because we're talking through the priorities. Another area is the one-stop. The DLTA is another one. This is the time of year where we're setting a variety of priorities. If grants come out of those, yes, they will be fleshed out so that you can actually make a decision.
Okay, now let's
Get back to the job
Let's get back to the
description.
job
Yeah.
description. Do I have a motion on the job description?
I move that we approve the community planning coordinator position.
Second,
Job description, position job description, sorry. I didn't-
second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
David?
I'm concerned that the approval of this job description, however it's fleshed out, bakes another $75,000 into the town's budget when ARPA money runs out.
That's
That's
a-
my concern.
That's a concern,
It is.
but we cannot, if you don't want the position after 1 or 2 years when the ARPA funds runs out, we don't fund it.
So the argument that came up at the last meeting was no one's going to apply for a job knowing it's only for 18 months or 24 months. That's almost
Well, we
verbatim.
won't know until we have somebody apply for it.
And then we'll discuss whether we continue it.
Otherwise, you're
We've
passing
got a gap here,
on-
and then we're
Okay.
handcuffed.
Otherwise, here's my concern. We can speculate about the future, we can speculate about the job market, but if we don't actually take action to test those things, we don't know if they're going to happen. The other thing is, then we let the ARPA funds are designated for this purpose. Those will go by the wayside. They can't be, because we already reached the end of the allocation period, they cannot be directed to anything else at this point.
But they can be directed to a different,
This is a
thing.
morph position.
right, they can be directed to, so for instance, the guy at the last week said zoning was something that was necessary for economic development. So that makes that money on paper applicable to getting a firm to do the zoning stuff. So the money doesn't evaporate if we don't say yes to this position.
The
We
thing
just-
with consultants, though, as you noted, when each person comes before, is they get one thing and then they charge a good amount for that because they need to supplement their own benefits, right? So we're actually paying a higher hourly position for a consultant to come in and do something very specific, as opposed to the things that we have listed.
Right,
The
we're having,
consultant for one thing on zoning
yep,
is not what we're talking about with the position. We're actually talking about several things, much of which include grants. And the town administrator is still involved with grants. What I noticed since when she first came on board, because I was on the town governance study committee, there were no grants. Nobody had really applied for grants. We didn't have grants. And that was the main concern in the hiring of the town administrator. She got that whole ball rolling to the point where we now have many grants. And the problem with the longer you do grants is you get into more and more complicated ones. And when you do, for example, Shell, Bridge, and the sewer,
Yeah.
even if the town administrator only devoted, 50% of her job to grants, there are times during the grant cycle when you are literally working full-time on, especially the big ones, you're working full-time on that grant. So we can't have a town administrator for all of December and January, for example, which is what happened with all of the various Mass DOT things and the bridge. You can't take your town administrator during a critical point of the budget year and say, go work 100% on this one grant that involves coordination with several different agencies at the state and federal level. That's where Leslie worked for the month of December and most of January, almost full-time on that one grant. And when she wasn't working full-time on that, she was working full-time on the sewer, right? So that's
And
why
without
that's why
that sort
those
of help on the
functions-
sewer,
That's why
town's gonna
those-
pay for the sewer.
so,
If
But that's
if
why
we don't
those-
get some help.
That's why those.
And not just the people on the sewer.
I didn't mean to get us back
Sorry.
into the weeds.
Yeah.
But to
With-
bring it
with
back,
my
money doesn't
non-vote yet.
evaporate if we don't turn it
However-
into this position.
to bring it back full circle to the job description is to only go after a consultant for part of it means we're losing the other pieces that are listed. And I feel strongly about the knowing the grant work that we've had to do on the bigger infrastructure projects. That's my concern, my biggest concern for not voting for this.
And this is a pile of quote unquote free money. We know it comes from national taxes, federal taxes, but this ARPA is a pile of free money. If we allocate it to a specific job, we know that we won't exceed it and add something going forward. So that's
It's
my
our
argument.
decision, but it's our decision on whether we fund that position beyond that.
Yes and no. I mean, it is our decision, but once you get something in the line, it's hard to take it out. I mean, that's a fact. It is. Things are hard to
Well,
take out
that's-
once you add them.
That's the responsibility we take on. I would also add, we need to do succession planning, and because we've talked about with the board clerk, and if other people retire in town, that we're gonna need to take a look at those other positions anyway, and perhaps morph them further, to your point. I'm not closed off to that option at all. I'm not willing to give up on this option right now because this is the very next step that we need to take.
Same here, this is as good an
Yeah.
option as we have. And I'm not for spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants, which we will spend
On
instead
more
of
consultants.
75,000. I mean, you talk with a consultant right now, say the sewer, just to talk to him on the phone to do a task is $30,000. I mean, you pay big money for these consultants. So I see it's gonna cost us a lot more money than this position will. And I
Yeah.
see the need where if we want to be able to continue to move forward and do the new bylaws, do the zoning, planning is getting bogged down because they have a lot of new rules coming out.
Yeah, and they don't have a board. They don't have any clerk at all right now because we don't have a boards clerk, right? She
Right.
went off to wonderful opportunities,
Librarian.
librarian. But
Yeah.
I see that as a priority for hiring.
Okay. So David, what's your vote
Let's
on
put that
this?
on the agenda then, separately.
I don't have a problem with the job description as it's written. Our last meeting, Select Board was supposed to get together with Andrea to make edits to it, to clarify the job description, but as it's written, I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
As long as the town understands that this is going to be funded by ARPA, and it will not be baked into the budget when the ARPA money runs out without a chance to review to say, does the town really want this position? Because now we have to pay for it, even though we're paying for it through our
Right.
taxes.
Yeah, that's fair.
As long as that is,
We'll review
that's
it.
driving my vote.
Yeah.
I think.
Or you can vote no, and we'll just bring it up again next meeting.
They'll leave in
It's
here.
up to you. I don't,
We want
let's
to,
get it done.
let's,
As long as we can review when the ARPA money runs out, then I don't have an issue with the
So do you
planning
want to put that
coordinator.
on the agenda for a year and a half from
Yeah.
now? Like, you
I
know,
did that with, follow up on a dog hearing.
okay.
I mean, that's how closely I track what's a priority to me.
So Sandra, would
Okay, so
you,
David, gonna
Then I'm voting yes.
vote
Okay.
yes. Okay, 3-1.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Okay, job description is passed. Okay, and we'll bring that up.
And then let's take some of the discussion about the board's clerk and other, what everybody else is doing, and put that on a future agenda topic.
Yeah, because we
if
can't
could.
discuss that because it wasn't
No, I
on the
know.
agenda.
Well, it came up.
And, you know, like I said,
Okay,
if we
okay.
discuss it, we're violating open meeting law.
Okay.
but we can put it on the
Yeah.
future agenda, which
I
is.
can put it on.
I'll send you
when
an
I-
email.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I apologize.
Move on here to March caucus. Okay, notice of meeting / hearing. Inhabitants of the town of Northfield, you are hereby notified there will be a meeting of the Northfield caucus at the town hall on March 11th, 2025 at 6 PM.
Do we want to give any,
I'm going to give it, just
Yeah.
except in emergency, public bodies shall file meeting notices, town clerk, okay. The agenda, the Town of Northfield Nonpartisan Caucus will be held Tuesday, March 11th, at 2025 at 6 PM at the Northfield Town Hall for the purpose of nominating candidates to be voted on at the May 6, 2025 annual election for the following town offices. And let me reiterate before I read these, that you can also get, if you don't attend the caucus and you want to run for one of these positions, you can get a petition, and you have to get a certain, what was it, 25 or 30 vote
I forgot.
signatures? Yeah, they'll, done
It's
from
not
the
a
town
lot.
clerk. Not a lot,
It's not a lot.
yeah. So you can get a, run for one of these positions by going to see the town clerk.
This is easier, but.
Now, this is easier. Okay, we have the Board of Assessors, we have a 3-year term. The Board of Health, we have a 3-year term. Board of Health, we have a second 3-year term. Board of Library Trustees, a 1-year term. Board of Library Trustees, we have 2 3-year terms. The Recreation Commission, we have 2 3-year terms. The Board of Sewer Commissioners, we have one whose term is up, a 3-year term. Board of Sewer Commissioners, one person resigned, and we have 2 years left on his term, so we have a 2-year term. The 2 new positions, which B and I filled, were for 3 and 2 years, so there's still 2 and 1 year left on them.
Say that again, 2 and 1.
those
Is
were
it two-
appointed? Was it half appointed and half?
And we're appointed. So what that starts is the first year.
Is it allowed? I thought they all had to be elected.
No,
Okay.
if there's nobody elected, nobody
Then
to
there's
fill
a-
them, we had to fill them.
Yeah.
So we appoint them.
There's a,
So we actually
then-
used up the first fiscal year by filling those seats. So what we have is a 1 year and a 2 year.
Could I ask a question about that, just for clarification?
yeah,
So if we have a position that is normally elected and we choose to appoint somebody, are we appointing them just, the select board chooses to appoint somebody, are we appointing them just until the elections?
Just until the election.
Okay.
So B and I and Tammy
Uh-huh,
were appointed to get through till the election,
okay,
because we needed to have
it's
5
called
sewer
an elected
commissioners.
vacancy.
okay.
So the sewer commission has, and after this, all those sewer commission positions are 3 years. So.
Should we, this is a question I'd like to put on a future agenda, which is about if a 5-person board would have, like the sewer commission, like the select board, would
Yeah.
have a 5-year election cycle, just like the
Yeah.
planning board. So I'd like to put that
No,
on
I
a
don't know,
future.
that's kind of,
The planning board does that, and so
I
there's
know,
only
but
one
that's-
election per year.
Okay.
I don't
Never
think
get
people are gonna
paid.
sign on for 5 years.
Oh, you think? Okay.
So the Board of
just tried
Sewer
to make it easy.
Commissioners, we have a 3-year,
Zip.
2 years, and a 1-year position. And, you know,
So quite
there's a
few
chance for
vacancies.
people on the sewer to step up if they want to have a say in their sewer bills and what's going
There's
on with
only
the sewer.
2 of us on there that are actually in the sewer.
I know, well, I'm saying
District.
is, with all these positions, if somebody wants to run,
There are
Correct.
currently 4 people on there, right?
yeah,
5.
Oh, who's the 5th?
Dan Gray.
Oh,
yeah, he's
And
up.
he's been
He's the
on-
one, the
Dan and-
3-year, he's the 3-year.
Dan and I both have houses in.
Tommy Walker resigned, he has 2 years left on his.
Yeah.
And then those other 2 positions, which were supposed to be for 3 and 2 years. But we used up one of each because we started before the end of the fiscal year.
yeah. So this is the announcement. There's no vote with this, right?
No vote.
Correct.
And then, okay, after that, Veterans Memorials, we have 2 3-year positions.
Oh,
Select Board, we have a 3-year position. And Constable, we have a 2-year position.
And I would like to just 3 minutes worth, 2 minutes, 1 minute, to citizens who are new to the town and have never been to the caucus. You come into the town hall, the big room in the town hall that used to have a stage,
auditorium.
the auditorium, and there are a bunch of chairs, and everybody sits down and they say, "Do I have any nominations for this?" And somebody in the audience will raise their hand and say, "I'd like to nominate XYZ," and somebody else seconds, and then the whole room votes. And they're not voting for whether they get to have that position, they're voting for whether they will be on
The
the
ballot.
ballot.
Yep.
And so this is an important way to get on the ballot. If you're interested in running for things, being on the ballot is much better than doing a write-in. It's a much
easier.
lower bar for somebody to check the box than it is to remember how to spell your name and write it in and everything. So that's how it goes.
Okay. All right, so that's it for that.
Is that on the website? Let's see.
What day of the week is the 11th?
Tuesday, it's a week from today.
Okay.
Okay, and now, okay, letter of support for digital equity implementation grant application. It's just us supporting their, writing a grant for that.
I thought that was already done. Didn't we already get that?
No, we're getting funding.
Okay.
We're past that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're the lead, which, there's 2. Do you want me to?
Well, I was gonna read, but go ahead if you wanna read it.
Oh, okay. No, I got the notes on the cyber seniors. Northfield is the lead applicant for a 6-town, is this what you have? For a 6-town consortium seeking
Yeah.
funding.
Application, okay, I'll read it.
Okay.
Select Board for the Town of Northfield is in full support of the Regional Digital Equity Grant application to support the funding of the Cyber Seniors Program for the towns of New Salem, Wendell, Leiden, Coleraine, Charlemont, and Northfield. This grant will allow funding to support a position in partnership with Greenfield Community College to work with area seniors on digital literacy and technological assistance. This will support programs like basic computer skills through understanding social media and more. The Northfield Select Board further supports the funds being requested through the grant to support the purchase of technology hardware and technical assistance to be administered at the Dickinson Memorial Library in Northfield. The Chromebooks and Launchpads will support technology and learning for Northfield's children, while the hotspots will increase digital inclusion for families. These additional materials will allow the library to expand its services and support increased digital inclusion and equity in Northfield that were recognized in the Regional Digital Equity Plan. Additionally, the library will host technical assistance hours and programs to increase digital literacy and support residents in areas from software support to cybersecurity. Northfield is excited to be part of this program, and we have the opportunity to support our residents and their families. We strongly encourage you to fund both applications.
And this is something that's ongoing, right? Because we
Yeah.
keep on seeing this.
Yeah,
So we
Yeah.
just keep, every year we ask for the money
Yeah.
to do a new
but
thing.
what they want is us to sign and show our support.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's a-
just
So I
wanted to-
motion that we support this.
Is it 1 letter or 2 letters?
It's 1 letter.
Oh, okay. Even better.
It's 1 letter. I make a motion that we support the digital equity implementation grant applications.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Yay.
It's one letter, two programs, B.
yeah.
Yep. I was just curious if it was two letters, but that's even better. And basically, we've got seniors, all the way from kids to seniors
Oh,
covered
yeah, it
in
covers a
both,
lot of
so,
people.
Yeah,
Drop line.
Hey,
good stuff.
be nice.
See, that's where we love our
Okay,
grants.
and then we have a request. Here we go.
Okay.
Mine's
To reimburse Loaves and Fishes $2,854.90 for emergency financial aid approved by the trust fund committee. And
I move that we approve the request to reimburse Loaves and Fishes $2,000, $854.90 for emergency financial aid, as approved by the trust fund committee.
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 It does break it out. Down, I'll just mention it, 2,000 for an electrician, $354.90 for Dead River, $400 for Bob's Fuel, and $100 for Sunoco. That's where they came up with
Well,
that.
and that's what she said in the meeting,
Yeah.
that
It's a
this
lot
time of year.
heating
it's a lot
assistance,
of-
yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
To make sense.
Citizens' concerns,
that's for you.
okay. Okay, none. Okay, not reasonably anticipated, we do need to get a select board member or two for the classification for the community planning coordinator.
Oh,
We have to do classification on that, that's the next step.
David, do you want to do that?
What do you want?
Have you done a classification
Yep.
yet? Oh, okay.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Because we can have two, we got, Andrea does it,
I'll volunteer.
Good.
someone from the finance committee will do it. And we can have two people on the select board.
I'll do it.
Okay, B
Well,
and.
he's married to somebody
B
on the
and-
finance committee, so.
B and David, okay? I
Lucky to
motion
be.
with B and David be appointed to do classification of the community planning coordinator position.
Second, if you need one.
All's in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. David and B, okay. Committee board appointments, none. Announcements, none.
Actually, you know what? On that last vote, I want to abstain because I didn't vote for the position.
Okay. Sarah abstained.
You're not voting for us to do more work?
I've been breathing through a straw lately, I gotta tell you.
I bet.
All right, any announcements?
No.
Recognitions for service? I want to mention, back there in the booth, BNC-TV, Tyler and you, you do a great job.
Is that
and
Otis?
moving stuff around when we
Hi, Otis.
lost the elevator, So I just want to recognize you guys for the hard work and your dedication.
And they do it so cheerfully, too.
Yeah, he smiles all the time. I don't know.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. Okay, is there anything else? I guess that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Oh, nice.
so early.